Boy, here's a truth that is as old as Jesus and the world itself, the modern world itself. Somebody's always trying to separate you from your money, you from your wallet. This is John O'Brien. This is Money and Wealth. Yeah, how to identify scams is, it's three triggers, really. It's more than three triggers, but here's some easy ones. There's an emotional trigger. These are the triggers that people are trying to pull on you to get you to separate you from your wallet. There's an emotional trigger. There's a formal trigger. In other words, trying to look like they're part of the system. Emotional is like inspiring you, convincing you, and making trying to make you feel like you're part of a movement or doing good or whatever. And then there's greed. Okay, and the biggest of these three, without question, is greed. So let me get into this in no particular order. There's a couple out of again, no particular order. They pick on Madoff. Madoff with I think it was $50 billion with a B, billion. And he says, Bernie Madoff says, how are you able to get away with this? He was, embraced by the establishment, part of the formal economy, deal with sophisticated investors. I'm gonna deal with crimes really for working class folks, middle class folks, and poor folks here really primarily. But he was dealing with high net worth investors. How did he get away with it? He says himself, because people were greedy. They wanted to believe that he could give them some crazy returns on their money, so they turn their heads to common sense. Common sense is not so common. If you look for the truth, you'll find it, right? But to rationalize is to tell rational lies, right? And you tend to believe what you want to believe. So whether it's Bernie Madoff who made off with 50 billion, or whether it's this dude who out of Malaysia, the one I don't want to get this wrong because I've got a one MBB initiative and I never like confusing the two. One MBB, and this is one BB or something like that. Anyway, it was a dude out of Malaysia who scammed the country out of billions, billions. I mean, just out of the sovereign fund of Malaysia. By the way, see if I can pull the guy's name up. We're talking, and again, the prime minister was involved, and all these people. How could you get the prime minister involved with a scam in Malaysia? Easy, greed, because it appears the prime minister was also in on the scam, right? And this guy went and hid in Texas, in China, actually, um, and he's still in China. I read this book. I don't often read 700-page books, but this book I did read, and it's fascinating. Um, and I'll come back to that because I'm trying to look up. I want to make sure that I pull up this guy's name, and you can do some research on him yourself. This is like, and he's a young guy. He was in his 20s, but once again, and he did, he financed Hollywood movies, and he had all kind of legitimate. One MDB is the name of the scam, by the way. Um, and uh, Joe Low is the guy's name, right? $4 billion stolen from that one MDB fund. Joe Low is this guy's name. The Department of Justice tried to prosecute him. They prosecute him as absentia because he's on the run. They were able to trace down $100 million. But I mean, this guy scammed just everybody. It's fascinating. There's documentaries out on it. Check it out. The prime minister, again, big names, uh, Wall Street investment firms, and got taken for a ride in this thing. A lot of people got hurt, right? Then you step down a few levels, and there's this couple in Texas, black couple. I don't want to mention their name. They're still being, going through the criminal justice system, and while there has been a verdict raised, it's not over. And I don't want to ruin their reputation by mentioning their name, making a bad situation worse. But you'll probably know what I'm talking about. They use spirituality in the church to try to get folks to tie into their, I'll say, blessed. That's all I'm gonna say. And again, they promised you something that you shouldn't have believed. They were talking about doubling or tripling your money or some crazy thing. I forget the numbers, but it was like crazy. Or it was even worse than that. I mean, bigger than that. There's no way you can give these kinds of returns. Again, greed, right? They use emotionalism, and they use, I guess, the formality of the church, and they use greed. They use all the tricks of the trade. Do I think they were bad people? Do I think they woke up in the morning and said, "Ooh, let me scam out my own people"? No, I don't think that's the case. I don't know them, but I don't think that's the case. I just think that, again, to rationalize is to tell rational lies. You convince yourself that what you're doing is the right thing when it is the wrong thing. It's a dude I know, guy I know, uh, pastor out of Houston, a really nice guy, ran a mega church in Houston. Reverend Kirby John Caldwell, he's serving time right now. Do I think he did something malicious? No, I don't. But he convinced himself, and I wish he would have called me out or told him to stay away from it with a 90-foot pole. But he convinced himself that when somebody came to him with Chinese bearer bonds or some kind of crazy thing, that he convinced himself that it was legit. He had a stack of documents, again, formality, a stack of documents that supposedly proved that this was legit. I would have told him it wasn't. And he, used his influence, or other people used his influence as a prominent pastor to raise money from unsuspecting investors, and it all blew up, and he's in jail right now. And I mean, this guy's counseled presidents. Again, a nice guy. I like him. To this day, I like him. And do I think he was malicious? No, I do not. He's even paid restitution. He actually paid back, I believe, the principal sum of the money that was invested through these bonds out of his own funds. Um, but I don't know what else. I don't know the details and whether other people lost additional money. But if you just looked at this, anybody who understands finance and understand how the world works, looked at this and said, "How did this get down?" Again, no disrespect to the pastor. It was a pastor of a very prominent big church. But how did this sophisticated financial instrument with so-called governments in the big finance world get down to the local level of a pastor of a local church? And how did he end up with this in his hands to be able to take advantage of it? It's just the world doesn't work that way, right? Greed in and of itself would have caught that opportunity way before it got to him. In other words, if people on Wall Street knew that there were a legitimate way to double your money using government bonds, that deal wouldn't have made it out of the first office it showed up to on Wall Street. You would never have got down to the big office, or the local office, to the smaller office, to the to the regional office, to the church in Houston, right? So I see this stuff coming. People come at me all the time. Hey man, I had a photographer come at me at a formal event a couple weeks ago. Hey man, I got these bonds from some country, and I want to talk. Nope, I'm just telling you right now. If this is the end of the story, can we please start there? I'm telling you, it's no good. That I'm telling you, that dog don't hunt. And the guy wanted to believe. Just say, look, just have a meeting. I don't need that. We're having a meeting right now. It always fascinates me when somebody says, "Hey, John, I just want to meet with you." Well, you're talking to me right now. We're having a meeting, right? What are we going to talk to behind closed doors, or on four walls, right? Behind a desk and a chair that you can't tell me right now, right? Anyway, that's just a funny aside. This stuff is just too. If it looks too good to be true, it normally is. So there's your first tale. If it looks too good to be true, it normally is. I've told you about a couple scams. Let me tell you what Experian uh, says about some of the latest scams that you should. They're AI, artificial intelligence powered scams. You can go to their website for details on each one of these. There's loan forgiveness scams where folks are masquerading like they're the federal government, like uh, yeah, like they're going to give you loan forgiveness, and what they really want is your information. And they're just trying to reel you in. And they get you to pay some application fee. A lot of these folks do this. Oh, we're going to give you $1 million. Just pay this $10,000 application fee. Anybody who comes at you with that, with any of that stuff, wrong. Scam, right? An application fee scam. One of the easiest scams on the planet. They feed on your greed and your emotionalism and your lack of financial literacy. They offer you some big number and just tell you all it takes is for you to give us this small number in relation to the big number, and we're going to pay you for the rest of your life. Does that really sound like it's rational? Okay, it doesn't. Sound like a pipe dream? Hello, it is. Right? And they will often say, like studentloangovernment.com. Did you see that? I'm just making this up, like student loan government forgiveness. I'm making this up. .com. There is no .com in this government. It's going to be .gov, G-O-V, or or worse than be .org. But I wouldn't even believe that, right? If somebody's masquerading as a government, it's going to be .gov or have something to do with the government. I can't tell you how many times I've received letters in the mail, and I have to look at it 5 times because it really looks like it's from the government. I've had people tell me, like, I'm in default on my property taxes, and I had to, like, look at it 5 times because it looked like it was from a taxing authority, but when you look at it really closely, no, it's just some business, some I can't call them entrepreneur because it's not legit. Some business charlatan masquerading as if they're the government, right? And phone scams, people calling you, impersonating, trying to, get you all wrapped up in some story, and they call you a whole bunch of times over a period of time and get you and get comfortable with you, asking about your family. They don't care about your family; they care about separating you from your wallet. Um, text scams. I've had those. People send me a text. Here's a funny one. They sent me a text as if it was me sending a text to me. They had messed up. John Bryant, this is John Bryant. I want you to wire me. I need. I'm in. I'm in. Stuck in an airport in Russia, and they've taken my credit cards. And you know who I am. I'm legit. Just send me, real quickly $1,000 or $1,200 or something. I'll get it right back to you. Scam, right? And I've had people in my company who got text messages saying they were from me. It clearly wasn't my phone number, wasn't my email address. It was somebody they sent emails to. If you just look closely, it wasn't me. It wasn't our email address. It wasn't our domain name. It wasn't my phone number. It wasn't anything. But they just, oh, John O'Brien, this is texting me, and he needs me to wire $10,000. One of my former employees actually did this. It wasn't $10,000, but it was, over 1,000. We reimbursed her for that, and I actually tried to get her to do a video to, like, share her story. She was so embarrassed she didn't want to tell her share her story, which upset me because I'm like, well, we paid you back for a scam. We didn't have to. It had nothing to do with us. The least you could do is educate other people anyway. She's not with us anymore. But this stuff happens like all the time. Zelle scams, cryptocurrency scams, romance scams. This is a big one. um, uh, Online purchase scams, employment scams, check fraud scams. I got one of those. How to avoid, okay, so here's a check fraud scam, right? This is mine. So I'm in Nigeria, and this is emotionalism. They got me on emotionalism. I'm in Nigeria with Ambassador Andrew Young 20 years ago. I remember Dick Gregory, the famous comedian, said, "I love going to Africa." This is 20 years ago. I love going to Africa because there, even my old canceled credit cards still work. Not the case anymore. Now everybody has digital and connected to the internet, whatever. But so I was in Nigeria. We were guests of the president of the president of Nigeria, the then president. There with Ambassador Andrew Young and the African American Summit, Reverend Leon Sullivan. All that was legit. We're at a African art bazaar outside the hotel. Again, government officials around, security around, and I'm all caught up in the emotion of the moment. We're all African. We're all from Africa. Everybody's from Africa. I'm trying to show my support, right, for my brothers and my sisters in Africa. And I'm not mad. I'm about to tell you this story. But I'm not mad at this person. This was so smooth and so smart. I wanted them to have the money, right? I get to tell this story for the rest of my life. So it was worth the money I lost. So I go to buy a piece of art, and I wrote a check. He let me write a check, and I don't remember the exact amount, but let's just say I wrote the check for $1,000, right? So I wrote him a check for $1,000 for the art. He allowed me. Now this is smooth. Now he allowed me to take the art with me. So I give him $1,000 check. I take the art with me. I get on the plane. I go home. The art's in my office. 2 weeks have passed. This is so smooth. These Nigerians, these scamsters, not everybody in Nigeria, but Nigerian scamsters, I mean, Nigerians are probably the smartest Africans on the planet. Sorry, I'm not offending anybody else, but as far as entrepreneurship and business, some of the smartest on the planet. They ever get legal, they'll run the planet, they'll run the world. My God, this guy is so smooth. This guy was so smooth. Waited 2 weeks, a confidence scam. Waited 2 weeks, build up my confidence in him. emailed me. Now, what would happen if he gotten the wrong email address or something for me, right? Emails me. What if I didn't respond to the email? But he knew how I respond. Emotionalism. Hey, Mr. Bryant, told me, Mr. Bryant, I'm so sorry to bother you. You gave me a check. I went to the bank. The bank wouldn't cash the check because I don't have the proper ID, the proper credentials, and hope you're enjoying the art. Was so honored to meet you. Blah blah blah. Speaking to my ego, I'm so so proud of the work you're doing. Yeah, right. You're about to work me over. And well, I'm like, well, what can I do to help you? Of course, I got the Superman complex, right? What can I do to help you? This is unfair. I mean, what do you mean the bank's not giving you the money? That cash this is my check. Dude, tell them to cash my check in your name. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Bryant, they won't cash the check. What do I do? I need the money for my rent and my payments. Oh, Superman to the rescue, not to worry. I tell you what, I'm going to wire the money to you. It was Western Union. I'm sending you the $1,000 by Western Union. I checked the bank, by the way. Check had not cleared. I know somebody's sitting there saying, John, don't do it. Check the bank. I checked the bank. The check had not cleared. Okay, we're on the same page. I am the financial literacy guy, right? So I'm like, okay. I checked the bank. I thought I was smart. I wire him $1,000 to Western Union. Hold on now. He calls back. Sorry, text back. Not text, sorry. Emailed back in those days, 20 years ago. I'm sorry, Mr. Bryant. The Western Union won't allow me to pick up the money. They say I have an ID problem. The first one was a credentials problem. This one was a ID problem. What do you mean they won't give you the money? Uh, yes, Mr. Bryant, I'm so sorry. They won't accept my ID. They're going to send your money back. Uh, and I don't know whether I told him not to do that. I think I did, and I think the money did come back to me. And then he told me to well, send it to his sister, I believe. So I resent the money this time. Now he's got me off my game. Right now, I'm completely committed. I'm completely distracted. I wire another $1,000 now to his sister, so-called sister, right? And I'm waiting for confirmation. I don't hear anything. Finally, I get my people to check Western Union. Yes, the money's been received. Fantastic. Secretary comes to my office. John, you might want to check the bank. Call the bank, checks have been cashed. Boom! Drop the mic. Dude caught me coming and going. All I could do is raise my hand to the dude. Like, okay, that was really really smooth. Now you won't. First, it happens to me. It happens to me once. Shame on you. Happened to me twice. Shame on me. Right? But it's not happened to me twice. But that one time when that happened to me, I had to tip my head, tip my hat, and say, "Good job, well done, criminal." But you'll never get that money from me again. Not a mas. If I go to someplace, I put it on my American Express card. You don't take American Express, you're not getting any money from me, or I'll pay cash. No checks, no nothing where I can't, it has to be debated later. Nah, don't think so. This dude again, it was so smooth because he actually gave me the product, didn't cash the check, banked on the fact that I was, the kind of person that would respond to his email, had to believe he had the right email address, and waited to the exact right time to cash that check. Just shows that we really are smart, right? We've been doing so much with so little for so long. We almost do anything with nothing. What happens when we become legal? My lord, right? And by the way, I'm not picking on black people. I picked on every race during this podcast. But to remember that um, NASCAR came from moonshine running in the Appalachian Mountains. Moonshine runners, they realized they've been running from the police that it was illegal and you couldn't do that for the rest of your life. You're gonna get, prison, probation, parole, or dead. There was no retired moonshine runners. So they said, well, what can we do? We can drive. And they start driving on in the mountains and driving on the beach and driving on in fields and driving around in circles. And hello, here comes NASCAR. And 5 generations later of wealth, you have billion-dollar families they can track their history to moonshine running. So rainbows only follow storms. You cannot have a rainbow without a storm first. Everybody has gone through something to get somewhere. And so here's our story as well. Love and light, John Hope Bryant.